Alright, YouTube, there have been a lot of correct the record shills both on YouTube and Facebook as well as 4chan, and sort of a pitchfork waving mob that's unwittingly, unfortunately, following behind them. So I decided to actually correct the record here to sort of take the dialogue away from the CTR page shills that Clinton fields on the subject of the sort of satanic performance art or occult ritualism of this Marina woman and John Podesta and others, as well as my thoughts about people like Anthony Weiner and Hillary Clinton. Let me first be quite clear here. I am not in any way defending John Podesta. I think there's a good chance he's a fucking pervert. If you read through the emails and you read about the way that he's seems a little bit oddly fixated on the specific age and like little kids swimming in a pool as a form of entertainment and stuff. Yeah, it's creepy. Okay, yeah, it is. As far as Anthony Weiner, we already know he's a pervert. We don't even have to speculate on that. He was sexting a 15-year-old. He's been sexting at least, I think, on 2 other occasions, other women who were adults. So it's fairly clear he doesn't have what you would call maybe sexual moral fiber or something like that. So I'm not defending these people. What I'm simply saying is if you want to know the truth, you have to uncouple concepts within your mind. This is one of the reasons why my analysis is so correct. Everybody else attempting to take a reading, to take a pulse of the political race for the last year, many of those people, especially the sort of 7-figure pundits and analysts, they've been dead wrong because in their minds, the typical status quo sort of patterns that they've seen in past elections, in their minds, magically applied to this one. They couldn't understand how what they considered to be a maverick candidate could take the Republican nomination. They didn't understand how essentially a grassroots-funded socialist candidate could actually put up a wall against Hillary Clinton, making her look quite bad in the process. And by the way, I feel sorry for Sanders because it turns out the DNC made him like sign some sort of agreement not to attack Hillary on certain topics so that she could skate through it. He got completely shafted. I think he knows this. He took a bribe quite clearly. But I still feel sorry for his fans more than I do for him. He's a sellout. As far as his fans, you got duped. Now, all those donations he made to Sanders never mattered. Clinton was a shoo-in anyway. And that's why when you told me Sanders has a chance, I said, yeah, it's the most remote of all possible chances. You've got a better chance of seeing a President Ted Cruz or a President Jeb Bush or somebody like that. You have to uncouple the creepiness of what Podesta says regarding children and the fact that he's, he probably is a pervert, honestly. Possibly involved with the Wiener Abedin stuff that we saw in Haiti, which WikiLeaks tweeted out, and I said, the fact that WikiLeaks tweeted out an infographic showing these emails linking Hillary Clinton's people, her staff, specifically Abedin and Weiner, to child trafficking in Haiti, makes me believe it's probably true. I put more trust in a WikiLeaks release at this point than I do anything that comes out of the legacy media. I think they're probably the most trustworthy source of information right now. That's why I've been covering them so much. But the fact that Weiner is a pervert, and Abedin might be a pervert, and that Clinton might be an enabler of perverts and have funded this sort of crap herself, and that Podesta obviously was aware that this was going on. And here's Clinton's top aide is Huma Abedin, and her husband's a pervert, and doing all this child trafficking bullcrap that I'm going to assume that he did, if WikiLeaks is tweeting about it. I'm going to assume that that's true, because I've got no reason to doubt them. So Podesta probably did know this was going on. Therefore, there's a good chance he himself is a pervert. But the fact that he's a pervert doesn't mean he's also a sorcerer, or a Satanist, or involved with the occult. What I've pointed out is that the occult does not operate the way in which that sort of nonsense operates. If you look at what they're doing in this Marina crazy goofball woman's performance art, it is quite literally just a Dadaistic form of modern art. If they're calling it a ritual, so be it. It's a great marketing strategy. Anton LaVey was a complete atheist and used to do it all the time. Oh, come get your manhood up. Come heal sickness. Come curse your enemies at my black mass. And he was an atheist. He didn't believe in a literal Satan or the Christian God or any of these things. Unfortunately, what happened at the time And this goes back to the Satanic Panic. Now, I have personally spoken with people who were involved with the Satanic Panic. I'm not talking about, oh, yeah, I was a Wiccan at the time. No, I'm talking about people whose names you would recognize within the Satanic Panic at large. We're talking the top rung of individuals that were involved at the time. I've spoken to them on a personal level about all sorts of things. I know a little bit more about this than maybe the average person does. It's an area of expertise because I spent years researching it as well on my own. It's of interest to me. It's like a second Salem witch trials or something. What happened is people were already paranoid. You've got a bunch of yuppies living in small town America, and it's all white picket fences and suburban row houses, and everything's just wonderful, and Ronald Reagan's fixing the economy. Oh, how wonderful. Those commies over there are starting to fall apart. Look how wealthy we are. We need to go snort some blow and party. Essentially, that's the general prevailing feeling that appears to have been present at the time in areas of the country where things were going well, as opposed to maybe the inner city or something like that. We're talking about suburbia and small town America. What happened is that people started getting very worried because little Jimmy and little Sally were listening to Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath and things like that. They were cool and they were wearing leather jackets and getting mohawks and stuff. Oh, well, that's not the way that those yuppies were raised. They were raised in an era where children were supposed to be seen and not heard. So they were already paranoid. Then they start hearing that the local priest or the local businessman or the mayor or something like that has been causing little Jimmy or little Sally to bend over and accept the grace of God anally. And they can't wrap their minds around it because they had severe cognitive dissonance. Severe case of it. They thought, well, this can't possibly happen here. There must be something worse at work. What they cooked up is, oh, it's a worldwide Satanist network or a bunch of witches. And it really depends. I remember when I was a kid, sort of towards the end of the Satanic Panic stuff, it had morphed into from specifically Satanists into witches in general. The Wiccans got lumped in over time. Pagans got lumped in over time and so forth. I happen to be an occultist and an avowed pagan myself. Now, I can tell you looking at, I'm no longer a Satanist, but if you look at the Satanic philosophy, it forbids harming children. It also forbids animal sacrifice sort of stuff. It says don't harm animals unless they're for your food. Now, what happened is that it made an excellent scapegoat for the fact that these people, psychologically speaking, couldn't wrap their minds around the thought that perfectly normal Christians, Jews, and secular individuals, they go to church once a year, or they say, yeah, I believe in God, but I don't go to church or something. They couldn't wrap their minds around the fact that people within their mainstream, hyper-patriotic American culture could do such a thing. So they scapegoated. They tried to find that creepy person who wears all black and blame it on them. And you had Christian opportunists at the time. They're not even really Christians in the strictest sense. Even most Christians now understand, like Jerry Johnson or something like that. They were there specifically to sell, how to identify a Satanist? Buy my new book for $9.99. Or buy my genuine splinter of the Holy Cross. This will ward off the devil worshippers or something like that. And some of these people made quite a lot of money off of it. People like Bob Larson, people like Jerry Johnson. They're charlatans. Go look at Bob Larson's website and he's still trying to sell exorcist services. It's a bunch of hokum. It has nothing to do with the authentic occult. These people probably haven't ever even cracked open a grimoire. They don't have an idea what they're talking about. Unfortunately, because of the way things operated in the 80s, late night talk shows and spooky radio programs were at a premium at the time. They got all the soccer moms, all the moralist pearl clutchers, the same people that said just say no to my generation, and fucked us up because then, of course, when we were offered the marijuana, psychologically things just didn't click quite right. And we said, oh, well, they always told me to say no. I didn't know I could say yes. Little bit of a Charles Manson quote for you there. And so you should look into that too. It's intricately connected to the Satanic Panic in every possible way. Then you look at Geraldo Rivera and his bullcrap. You'll see exactly why. These sensationalists, people like Geraldo or Bob Larson, made a lot of money off of these things. They made all sorts of late night specials and some of them had record viewership. One of the most watched things ever was a different Geraldo program where he cracked open an old Al Capone vault and found buttfuck nothing inside. And then he had to do a little dance and song right after they were on air. The fact is that there is no worldwide satanic confederacy responsible for abducting children and molesting them, or raping and abducting adults, or murdering people for hire. What you're seeing when you see these things are disparate acts, often unrelated to one another, where a bunch of idiot con artists have told you that there's some connection between them so that they can sell things. And that's really why. Oh, you buy my talisman to ward off the witches that'll destroy you if you don't, or something like that. And in the case where they're linked, like for instance, if Anthony Weiner, as I'm going to assume that he is trafficking children in Haiti and probably involved with consuming some of that trafficking, let's face it. He's a fucking pervert. It's not even up for debate. We know Anthony Weiner's a fucking pervert, and that's one step away from Clinton herself through Huma Abedin. So it is worrying. It is disturbing. That doesn't mean that he's a Satanist or an occultist. He probably doesn't know anything about these movements. He knows butt-fuck nothing about them. Even people who are legitimately entertaining. For instance, I've said this about Alex Jones, and I'll say it again. Much of the material on Alex Jones' show is mere sensationalism. It's not real. The NWO sort of stuff is occasionally half true. For instance, Jade Helm. All of these people at the time, did you not remember this? How soon people forget. It's just like fortune telling. One correct prediction, and they'll forget 100 incorrect predictions. Oh, Jade Helm's martial law takeover. Pretty soon the UN will be marching through our streets. At the time, I said no. Look at the map. Rotate it 45 degrees, and it's basically a stand-in for the Middle East. They're prepping for war. Now we hear Hillary Clinton talking about, what else? No-fly zone in Syria. We'll go back into Iraq. We'll get involved in Libya. Maybe we'll overthrow Egypt. We'll have to do something about Erdogan over in Turkey. That's what they were training for the whole time, but the sensationalist headlines drew a lot more viewers than people who had enough sense to actually analyze it correctly. When I see people like that, who make a living selling special iodine or something, or talismans to keep you safe against devil worshippers, they've become expert at putting, and I don't think that it's a psyop. In most cases, it's not. In most cases, just showmanship. Some of it's psyops, as in, for instance, like with 9/11. I got flack for this. I understand that people are sensitive about it. By the way, no, I don't believe the official story on 9/11. And I made that quite clear, and people completely ignored that fact. It was completely and utterly misused. Yeah, there was collusion probably between U.S. assets, like the CIA or something, and those responsible, namely the Saudis and probably their good buddies Israel. But people completely ignored this because they'd rather focus on a more interesting conspiracy. The bigger the lie, the more people will believe it, is in essence. So if you talk a big game, and you stand up there and start ranting about reptile people or aliens bringing down the World Trade Center, or some other arcane conspiracy theory, even if it's completely false, provably false, and full of shit, more people are going to believe that because it's going to hype up the fringe of society. I don't blame people. There was a time years ago when I used to go through the Saint Brigitta videos and watch exorcisms and ghost pictures and stuff like that, and I thought it was great. It was very spooky at the time. What I eventually realized is that spooky dooky side that was so enthralling in the Hollywood sense, it drove a lot of audience, but it wasn't the authentic occult. It wasn't the authentic paranormal. None of it was actually true. What I was witnessing was infotainment, essentially. Some real ghost story that gets transmogrified so much over time it no longer even resembles the original story. And this happens in our history constantly. What I'm saying about people who are talking about devil-worshipping Clinton or something, what I am saying is that most of these people are confused and some of them are shills. The shills are conducting a psyop in order to convince people, Trump fans namely, to start rambling like it's the satanic panic so that fence-sitting independents will think Trump and his fans are so batshit fucking insane they won't vote for him. And some people have taken it up hook, line, and sinker. I have no doubt that most of the shills... Look, I'll tell you this. I'm aware of my persuasion skills. I'm aware of my speaking skills. I'm aware of the fact that people tend to put some credence in what I say. I'm aware of who my subscribers are, generally speaking. I have no doubt whatsoever in my mind that the majority of the people shitting up the comments area in my video about Podesta's spirit meal, whatever the fuck it's called. They're not my subscribers. Many of them probably aren't even real people, so much as sock account shills that are paid for by the Hillary Clinton campaign. The reason why they're there is to try to disenfranchise an actual analysis of something that is creepy, with Podesta as a likely pervert, Weiner as a definite pervert, Clinton as probably an enabler of pedophiles. They tried to take that analysis and detract from it to put forth their more sensationalist story, inject the idea into the public consciousness, because it's easier to refute. You take the proper analysis, for instance, like what I've said. The Saudis were involved in 9/11. Israel was involved in 9/11. Netanyahu spoke glowingly about the idea of us being praised as liberators if we got involved. It was never true. The U.S. government capitalized upon 9/11 to push their war agenda to try to play grand chessboard in the Middle East, as well as to secure oil pipelines. Part of it was economic, part of it was strictly about the petrodollar. Yeah, that's true, although it's really more the blood dollar than it is the oil dollar. I'll have to explain that in a different video at some point in the future. It's about strategy on several levels. That's why we went into Iraq. It had nothing to do with terrorism. The reason why we invaded Afghanistan, by the way, had nothing to do with Osama, because he was never there. I wouldn't be surprised if Osama did die long before this so-called bin Laden raid. I don't believe that even slightly. I was never given any evidence by the government to believe it. So why the fuck should I take Obama's word for it, or the word of John McCain, who very quickly and mysteriously came out and said, oh yeah, I saw the picture of the dead bin Laden, but then the day before Obama had said, no pictures were taken. I thought the idea was that if you took a picture of the corpse at all, whether you showed it publicly or not, it'd cause more terrorism. Kind of a contradiction there, and it gets on my nerves. No, I don't believe the bottom line. I don't believe the story they went with. It sounds like the Gulf of Tonkin to me. But that doesn't mean that aliens brought down the Twin Towers. It doesn't mean that they were stacked with nanothermite or C4 or something beforehand. It doesn't mean that somebody put a nuke in the basement. The reason why these stories were injected largely by our government, or by maybe the Saudis or something, is to detract from those who would actually think, well, something's a little funny here, the official story doesn't add up, let's dig deeper. Because then it distracts those who want to dig for the truth with something that's more easily obtained, they don't have to work for it, and it's more sensationalist than, aha, there was collusion behind the scenes, in a general sense. It makes them look like nuts to the lamestreamers, and so everybody wins as far as those that were actually involved. They never have a thorough and fair investigation. With the Anthony Weiner Podesta crap, the real story going on right now is Clinton provably lied to everybody. She lied about her emails. She lied about her time at the State Department. She lied about Benghazi. She lied about the reasons for setting up her server. Obama lied about knowing that this server had been set up. Anthony Weiner's a pedophile. Huma Abedin probably backed this stuff up as a life insurance policy. The DNC has probably had numerous people killed to try to hide these facts. Those are the real scandals. Podesta going to, or I think he didn't end up going, and it was his brother or something that actually went and was inviting him to some sort of weird cosmic dinner bullcrap where they, spray fake blood everywhere or rant about semen and breast milk. It's a distraction. It's not a scandal. Yeah, I'm sure it's creepy to somebody in the mainstream. It must be very, very creepy indeed. But it's not occultism. It's just him being a whacked out freakazoid, essentially. You don't need a worldwide satanic conspiracy to see why there would be perverts in power. Think about what rape even means. Child rape, adult, or whatever it happens to be. It's an attempt to, psychologically, it's an imbalance that causes them to try to exact dominance in some way, thinking, well, I'll make them little because maybe they feel little inside or something like that. I'm not surprised that people who rise to the top in an oligarchic system like this by backstabbing and bribing tend to be perverted. I'm not surprised that Bubba Bill's a pervert. I'm not surprised Anthony Weiner's a pervert. I wouldn't be surprised if Podesta was a pervert. I wouldn't be surprised if Hillary herself was a total fucking weirdo. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not defending these people. I'm simply saying they don't have the intelligence or self-control to practice the authentic occult. And if they're doing anything that seems occult, it's a mock-up. It's like an Anton LaVey shit show. That's what it is. Has nothing to do with a worldwide conspiracy. The worldwide conspiracy is globalism. I thought that everybody sort of agreed upon that some time ago. Now we've relapsed to the point where CTR comes on, starts rambling about Satanism, a bunch of Trump fans take the bait, specifically his evangelical fans, and it's doing the will of the Hillary Clinton campaign because they're trying to make Trump look like a lunatic. What better way than to get his fans whipped up into a frenzy so they stop talking about the emails, they stop talking about Benghazi, they stop talking about how Weiner is a certifiable nutcase, they stop talking about corruption and collusion and start rambling about an art performance. There's no better way to accomplish it. When things like this happen, think of who gains from a story being injected, and then you will see who probably injected it. Trump doesn't gain anything from this story being injected. He's already got control of the religious core of this country. They were never going to vote for Hillary Clinton to begin with. The independents matter a lot, though, and when they see somebody claiming Hillary Clinton is a devil worshiper and sacrifices children to Moloch, what the fuck do you think that they see? They see a fucking nut rambling about Hillary Clinton and ignoring actual scandal. And they probably don't want to say, I think I'll stand with this person. Yeah, Hillary worships the devil or something like that. It's that clear. It's that plain. I realize that people didn't like my analysis of that former CIA dude, the one that claimed Osama, almost said Obama. Same thing, both tyrants had Marfan syndrome or something like that. Somebody claimed I had Marfan syndrome on 4chan last night. A little bit of a synchronicity. Rather odd. I don't think I do, by the way. My chest doesn't look like it's caved in. I just happen to be a skinny dude. And my fingers aren't that long compared to my overall hand size, so I'm going to say probably not. I don't look like Osama. He was freaky. He's like, if I'm tall and thin, he was much taller and I think he was 6'4", and way thinner. His fingers were like out to here, so he looked like Count Dracula or some shit. Count Dracula with a turban and a beard, stoned out of his gourd on opium half the time. But no, I don't believe the government. I don't have any love for... I'm a patriot, as in I hold to the ideals of the United States. Another funny thing I see is people who are also, probably CTR, let's face it, claiming that I change my mind constantly to try to denigrate from the number of people I can reach. I haven't changed my mind. For a very long time, I made it clear I supported Gary Johnson. I got off of his campaign and began supporting Trump. That's all there is to it. That's the story. I've been predicting Trump's victory since before Nevada's caucus. I've been predicting Trump was the front runner since South Carolina. I've been predicting, I said he was the presumptive nominee shortly after Super Tuesday. I said he was the guaranteed nominee not that much longer after that. And I've maintained throughout the entire general election that he has an advantage going into the election. I have never said, even once, there are two things that people apparently think they heard that they never did. Go back through my videos, try to find it. I've never said Hillary ever had any sort of advantage, because she clearly hasn't. And I've never said it was certain that Trump would win. He's gravitated between a 75 and 99% chance of winning the entire general election. I also don't believe the polling firms. But am I going to sit here and spout off for hours about rigged polls when I don't know what direction the bias might be in? Let's say that they rig the polls and it turns out that there's bias in the other direction and it cancels itself out. How the fuck am I supposed to know? Maybe there will be massive electoral fraud. I don't know. I can't be everywhere. I can't be at every fucking polling place, and neither can you. You don't know exactly what's going on. I don't claim to know the ins and outs of the Clinton campaign. I imagine it's quite corrupt. I imagine it's quite degraded and dark and despoiled and filled with madness and sickness and lunacy. But that doesn't mean that I believe they're devil worshippers. Hell, if they were devil worshippers, they'd be a lot more noble than they are. They would know better. And to that one poster, I can't remember your username, saying, whoa, Podesta's got power, don't underestimate him, so maybe he's an occultist. No, he's not. He doesn't understand these things at all. Take one look at his emails. He's completely fixated on the materialistic. Then comes out, says, oh, he almost quit the Clinton campaign. Well, I'm not surprised, because he doesn't know what he wants. He has no self-control. If you want to control anything, you have to control yourself first. You have to be able to gauge what people's reactions will be to any action you undertake. That's the form of control the occult is all about. It's about play acting your way through life. Essentially, or at least that's a major part of it. Has nothing to do with unduly screwing other people all the time. That's Hollywood nonsense. Plenty of Christians, Jews, and Muslims do that all the time. They don't worship the devil. The Muslims believe that they're opposed to Satan. Oh, Al-Dajjal is evil, Allah is good, and we will oppose him, and America's the great Satan, and all this stuff. And look at the actions that they undertake in their holy war against this horrible West that they see as the personification of Satan. They don't need a Satan to practice evil. It's not necessary. They don't need a Satan in order to be buggering 9-year-old girls in Saudi Arabia. Which happens. It's legal there. Happens every single fucking day. We had a case, I think it was, I can't remember, Yemen or Oman, one of these countries, and it sparked some level of outcry. There was some dude, he was in his 40s or something, he marries a 7-year-old and rapes her to death. That he didn't need to worship Satan for that to happen. It's just these people are sick in the head. There are people in, let's say, a different country in the Middle East who practice a slightly different religion who are fucked in the head too. And have a lot of nukes that they haven't declared. They don't sign the NPT. Why is that? Because they want to use them. They want to depopulate their neighbors at a moment's notice because they're constantly paranoid that the world's coming down crashing on them. What about the Christians? Look at what they've done throughout time. I'm not any of these groups. I don't have any hate specifically. I used to. When I was younger, I hated organized religion and many of the people within them. I've come to the conclusion I don't really hate the people within them. It's just the organization itself that I hate. The reason that I hate it is they're opposed to liberty. They're opposed to human decency. And I say this from a Luciferian perspective. Lucifer is about liberation. I don't believe in an actual Satan, but I think of Lucifer, I think of liberation. Freedom, the things this fucking country was founded on in the first place, has nothing to do with sacrifice. You want sacrifice, read your fucking Bible, read the Quran or something like that. And the only reason that it perturbs me is that I get tired of people denigrating the occult, which is a wonderful thing, by assuming that idiots like John Podesta are capable of practicing it. They're not. They're not literate enough to understand the material. Their eyes would glaze over. They would read an alchemical manuscript and assume it was literally about transmuting lead into gold because they're so fucking retarded. It's like the Special Olympics in the Clinton campaign at this point. And you're trying to tell me these people are part of some secretive cult that rules the world? They can't even rule themselves. They're just a bunch of weirdos. Yeah, they're perverts. Of course they are. So get off my case. As far as those of you who are getting on my case, who aren't CTR, get off of it. If you don't like the material, okay, well, vote it down, but don't rant. Don't have a 200 line long rant about how much you hate the video, unless you want me to chuckle and reply scornfully to you. To those that are CTR, you'll keep doing it anyway because you're shills. But that's exactly who's starting this crap. They're trying to make Trump look crazy. I'm telling you, as somebody who practices the occult, who's been a Satanist, who is still philosophically a Luciferian. I don't follow Anton LaVey's bullcrap anymore. Nor would I ever join the Church of Satan or the Temple of Set or any of these other retard groups. It's just LARPing, basically. You pay a bunch of money to get a little paper card. Ooh, aren't you special? You're so elite. You're so rebellious. Just like Father Satan or something like that. These people are clueless. I feel sorry for them. I don't dislike them. I feel sorry for them more than anything else because there's so much more that the world can offer them. You don't need a little paper card that costs $200 to be a Satanist if that's what you're after. It's as simple as being free, people. That's the founding goal of this country. Then people claim the Freemasons are an occult society. I've read plenty of Freemason literature. They're just a bunch of deists. Our founders were largely Freemasons. More power to them. They did the right thing. It's a group within Christendom, which is exactly what they are, essentially. They're monotheists. They can't be pagans, because the pagans aren't allowed in the Masons. Only monotheists are. I think they allow Muslims and Jews, technically, because technically it's the same God. I think it's basically just an Abrahamist mystic order, but it's not really occultism. They have the mock-ups, just like Anton LaVey, who, again, was an atheist. It's shitty I have to sit here for a half an hour explaining these things to people. But people need to know it from somebody who knows what they're talking about. And when people say, oh, you don't know anything about the occult. What planet are you living on? Go back through my goddamn videos and see what I've talked about for years now. and then shut the fuck up. It's as simple as that. And I know most of this, it has nothing to do with anyone who actually supports me. I've had numerous people claim, I'm unsubscribing from this channel. They weren't subscribed to begin with. I know who these people are. Many of them are paid to post that nonsense. I've seen them elsewhere. They do this to other people too. I'm not special in that regards. They do this to anybody who dares to stand up against the Clinton machine. Because they're a bunch of rejects. They're a bunch of nerd virgins. And Hillary Clinton is extremely likely to lose. And I'm going to laugh if she does. She loses. I got a cigar already picked out, and I'll be smoking that on my live stream if Trump's declared the victor. You better believe it. I'm going to have some wine, too. Get a nice wine glass going, and I'm just going to sit there, and I'm just going to smoke it silently and look into the camera for half an hour, essentially, when that happens. And I expect it will. Everything is lined up in Trump's favor. He's against globalism. I oppose globalism. I have no love for Podesta, Clinton, or any of these other orangutans in her campaign because that's exactly what they are. Yeah, they're freaks. They're weirdos. But they're not occultists because they're not smart enough to be. That's about all. Peace out.